global multidão, realizing just transitions. Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Berlin.
Welcome to this press conference at the start of the second week of the UN Climate Conference. Today, we're going to talk about just transitions. I'd like to welcome Federal Environment Minister Carsten Schneider and Manzi, Vice Secretary General of the International Trade Union Confederation. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Moch from the German Confederation of Trade Unions. If you'd like to know more about the German perspective on the trade union policy, we're going to start with the German Environment Minister. Good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you to the German Pavilion. Eric, a warm welcome. So, thanks a lot for coming here today, for joining us at this event. Together with Manzi, I'd like to talk about just transition policy, about this field of negotiations here at the COP. I'm going to do so on behalf of the European Union, where I will negotiate with my Estonian colleague. This is the first time that I'm visiting the COP venue. At the weekend, I had the opportunity to get a first glimpse of Berlin, the city and its surroundings. I saw a lot of commitment, amazing people, but also a lot of poverty. And I understand very well President Lula's decision to have this COP hosted in Berlin. And I think it was a right decision, because this place not only highlights the immense importance of rainforests, it also makes the international community address the social issue, because the social justice issue and the climate issue have to be linked together. The social effects of climate change are dramatic. Berlin, for example, could become one of the hottest cities in the world, even hotter than it is now. And the mayor of Berlin showed me that this is truly a very serious situation, where when I planted a tree with him in the city. So this means that the rich may be able to afford air conditioning, but what about the poor? For the poor, the heat becomes intolerable. What about millions of people, billions, who have to work in the open air and suffer from heat stress? I'm delighted to host this first press conference at this climate conference together with Eric from the ITUC. There are no jobs on a dead planet, your organization points out. And you develop this further and call for decent jobs on a livable planet. And your organization was key in developing this pathway, the concept of just transition. In Germany, I like to refer to this as social or socially minded climate action. I support this goal for Germany at European level and also here at this conference. And I want social climate action to play a key role here at this COP. And this is also why I supported efforts as the European Union to put this issue on the agenda. And as I said, I will negotiate for this topic together with my Estonian colleague, Andres Sutt. Social climate action can become a formula for success because it combines important concerns. Brazil has an important role to play here. For President Lula, the just transition is very important. He wants to support and accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels, and he enjoys Germany's support here. There is hope that there will be a concrete roadmap for this movement this week, also thanks to Brazil's presidency. And I really support this because we need very specific measures to achieve the 1.5-degree target. You understand, all of us, all of me? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to climate action, we have the technical solutions. We have the economy on our side, if you look closely. But the great challenge is about social justice. We know that climate change is a big challenge. It is the most profound change that we can imagine. When sea levels rise, drinking water becomes scarce and harvests fail. But climate action can also be a challenge because it means changes that can be difficult for people. So it's not just about letting transitions happen. We need to shape them in ways that are socially acceptable. Acceptance is key. All over the world, there is overwhelming support for work by the international community to solve this issue that affects all of humanity. But when it gets down to the details, sometimes things get difficult. In my opinion, the focus on social equity makes climate action not slower, but faster, because it increases acceptance. We need to take concerns about jobs seriously, about fairly paid jobs. This means that we need participation. The earlier all stakeholders are involved, trade unions, companies, regions, municipalities, civil society, the more viable and the more just the transition will be. In Germany, the Coal Commission showed, which prepared our coal phase-out at home, that this is the solution. Social dialogue and co-determination build trust. They reduce conflicts and they attract investment. And collective agreement in this spirit are what we need. I was responsible for East Germany with its many coal regions, and I can say from my own experience that the transformation was key. With 40 billion euros, we supported the transition away from coal, and with a clear pathway towards 2038, protecting jobs, protecting employees, and creating new future-proof jobs. There's a center in Lausitz in Cottbus, a city that was important for the coal industry in the former GDR, and under Olaf Scholz's government, we attracted new business to this area. It was a political decision by the federal government, and it took only 2 years from the political decision to the implementation. So the colleagues working for the trade union for chemical energy, and they were able to use this opportunity. So this is the first element, participation. The second element is skills development. Climate action creates millions of new jobs in future-proof technologies. We need job matching platforms. We need reskilling programs to make skills visible. And these tools are mentioned by the Jobs and Skills for the New Economy report. Its main message is that if we invest in people, in skills, further training, and fair and good working conditions, then countries stand to benefit in multiple ways for their industry, for social cohesion, and also for faster climate action. And the report expects some 375 million new jobs to be created worldwide in the fields of renewable energies, refurbishments, recycling, and reforestation. Decentralized renewable energies often create new jobs, and many of them are created in structurally weak regions. And this clean tech sector is growing very fast in Germany too. It's growing faster than the average. More than 3 million people are employed in this sector. That's more than 3 times as much as in the automotive sector. And I want this growth to be further strengthened, and this will play a vital role in the energy transition, and it will create jobs at the same time. The third element, or the third pillar, is active structural policy. This structural policy must begin at an early stage to create new prospects for regions with infrastructure, innovation, and new economic development. If we look at Germany's former coal regions, we can see that, in fact, new jobs are being created because politicians acted very early. So we strengthened the site in Cottbus with a new medical university, and we did so as part of a transition to a new era, and it was not a very abrupt rupture. So the colleagues there, we don't leave them behind. We ensure that they will have a viable future and viable job prospects. All those involved, the municipalities, the trade unions, civil society, all of them agreed to this coal phase-out. So it's a whole of society consensus. At the moment, everybody in Germany is concerned about the automotive industry and its regional hubs. I talked to the work councils recently, and all of them said that they are committed to climate action. The future belongs to electric mobility, but at the same time, they asked me to make sure that we need to create leeway, we need to create opportunities for companies to invest in the new technologies. I saw a few electric cars today, but none of them were from Germany, so that's really a challenge for us at home. There are further important elements of a social climate action policy. For example, we need to make sure that funding is channeled to those sectors where they're really needed, and we're doing so with our funding program for electric mobility. And we need to strengthen the added benefit of climate action, for example, to make sure that clean air is guaranteed and that energy access is guaranteed in African villages. So what does this mean for our conference, where the just transition is increasingly in the focus? The European Union has proposed developing a just transition action plan. So we're making progress. We're advancing this issue. We want to make sure that trade unions are listened to and can negotiate with us. And we also want to make sure that developing countries can organize their climate action policies in socially responsible ways. We want to increase the focus on social issues, just as with the Just Transition Energy Partnerships, which you know, for example, from the case of South Africa. And it's not necessary to have new structures here. I would say that the activities here within the UN climate systems and beyond should be connected, should be interlinked, and then we can see where there are still gaps and assess further steps to where the COP process can help in addition. And at the end, all NDCs should also address social transition pathways in the future. I firmly believe that if we take this issue seriously, then this will make more climate action possible, not only here, but also in our home countries. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. It's a pleasure. I think I've not a lesson to give you because you passed through all we want as a trade movement in terms of the benefit of the workers, but not only the workers, but of the population across at the national level, but also at international level across the world. Yes, we are sure that, we are happy to hear that in Germany we are already committed as a government to work through the social dialogue, through the collective bargaining with the trade movement, the representative of the workers, in terms of to prepare the just transition. It's a good thing because we need yes, if you say we are going in the fossil fuel, out of the fossil fuel, but we need also in the other time to create more green jobs. But what we realize now is the fact in many countries we have not the support, enough support for the government, you know, to prepare the just transition to the green job. They have not, sometimes we have not the package, the compensation package, the training needed, etc. But as you said, through the negotiation, to the collective bargaining, we can achieve more things. We can succeed on the transition. And across the world, we are happy. We are not only work on the German workers, but through the cooperation, you spread your good example across the world, and especially in some country. I come from Africa. Even if I represent the International Trade Union Confederation, I come from Africa. We have some good example in Africa where already the German has some cooperation in South Africa, for example. But we have also other good example in Nigeria, Somalia, Kenya. We have the good example, but we are still we still have very few countries, and we expect that not only the commitment you have, but also to expect in here in COP30, to what we call the BLM action mechanism, the BAM, is very important now in this COP30 to have it in terms of to concretize what we ask from a while in different COP. And we expect in this COP30 is the opportunity to push the agenda, and we expect to have your support, especially in this time where we have many countries try to push back. You mentioned the NDCs. We realize that many of the countries are not yet ready or refuse or try to ignore the NDCs, the report of NDC to report. That's it. Maybe can be the as a trade movement, as a workers, we are very worried about it, and so we can say, Honourable Minister, we expect to push it. We expect your support to support the trade movement, and through the German unions, which we are working very closely in terms of to move forward on the just transition, because the just transition is the future for the population and the community. So, Honourable Minister, I think it's what I can add on your very bright speech and the commitment of German government, especially across the world. It's not only for the German, I repeat, but for the world. It's very important to have such commitment. Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you. Vielen Dank, Erik Manzi.
Thank you, Mr. Manzi. The report that has been mentioned is available online, and we're happy to distribute it. Given the lack of time, we only have an opportunity for a few questions. So, who would like to ask a question from the audience? There in the front. Thank you, Jonas Watt from the Taz newspaper. I have two short questions. Mr. Schneider, if I understood you correctly, you supported conducting these negotiations. Is that the case? And what would be a success after this week? What form would it take, in your opinion? Thank you. Well, I supported leading these negotiations for the EU together with my Estonian colleague, and the focus should be on socially equitable climate action, and to put this on the agenda prominently, and also to design work processes for this issue, because I think it is key to ensuring climate action. From my political experience, I can say that when new technologies emerge and when we support them, support their implementation, it's very important to achieve progress while at the same time looking at the distribution, for example, the renewable energies in Germany were financed by the level under the levy, the surcharge under the Renewable Energy Act. So this has been changed, and now the surcharge is financed through the federal budget, and this means that consumers do not have to pay this levy anymore. It relieves the burden on consumers. So this makes it possible to, through other mechanisms, to ensure that higher incomes have to pay more through the federal, through the restructuring of this levy. And trade unions have to be listened to. They belong to the table. They have to take part in the negotiations. And for trade unions in Germany, I can say that climate action would not be possible without them. We need them as partners, and they need to be involved in the process and have the opportunity to organize well-paid jobs for the future. We're still in this process. We can see this in the case of the automotive sector, in the case of the steel sector. We've had a steel summit recently in Germany, and there are many concerns in those industries. For example, the aim is to create green lead markets for steel in Germany, for green steel. And none of the people involved challenge climate action. It's about designing the process. So now we need to collect a few questions. There are a few questions over there, and perhaps we can take them together, and then we'll have you.
Ja, Lukas Fuhr von der FAZ. Herr Schneider, Sie haben ja gesagt, was das in
The
Cottbus
FAZ newspaper, Mr. Schneider, you said that the project in Cottbus cost 40 billion euros. At a global level, these are astronomical sums. Who is supposed to pay this? So this was the example of the coal phase-out regions for the Lausitz and also for other parts of Germany. And this project is happening over a period of 20 years. So the money spent throughout this entire period. It's a national task, and at the same time, it's part of the climate financing commitments that we made as the German government, which are valid and which we support. Tim Schauberg for the German, the Deutsche Welle. Mr. Schneider, there will be some say that Germany will cut back its climate financing and that this will affect poor countries hardest. So, but what about your climate policies? Well, first of all, Germany is committed to multilateral cooperation, which I support in all of my conversations. Also, this also includes the financing commitments that we make, that the wealthy North has made towards the Global South, met Annalena Baerbock, and in particular, we're also saying clearly that our commitments are stable, our financing commitments are stable. There have been discussions which you are referring to, the financing of the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation. This was an issue for one political party in Germany that is part of the government. That party found it important to cut back funding, but I think that but our Minister for Economic Development, Ms. Radovan, is fighting every day to have more funding. And I think that as the German government, we should really take our commitments seriously, our commitments towards other countries which need our support. And I think it's also worth spending this money. Yesterday, I visited the rainforest, a project in the rainforest, and everything that is being done there to protect the Brazilian rainforest has direct effects on Germany. So what we do here in terms of climate action policy is it may be more efficient and more worthwhile than projects happening in Germany. So we continue to support these efforts and to honor our commitments. Unfortunately, there is no more time for questions. The minister, who has to join the plenary in a few minutes, but there are further questions that, as far as I can see, with Heike Henn, our Director General. But thank you, Minister. Thank you for your participation.
Okay, see you. Thank you. You are still here. Ihr bleibt doch noch hier, oder?
Gut. Frau Götze, wollen Sie trotzdem fragen oder war das nur für den Minister?
Hallo, hören Sie mich ja?
Is there still a question you would like to ask? Well, yes. Maybe we can talk to the minister later, but my question was actually in connection to the question asked by a colleague from the Taz newspaper. He said that socially just climate policies are, what form could they take? What wording could be used to make sure that what is the intention of the German government? And the minister also said that climate financing will remain stable. And she referred to JETPs such as South Africa. But are there further projects, further JETPs with other countries that have been initiated? And what is the state of those partnerships at the moment? And if they are to be further advanced, where is the money to be taken from? So what is the state of the progress regarding those JETPs? Thank you. But I don't have to push any button here. Okay. Well, regarding the Just Transition Work Program and the minister's goals, well, the first step is very substantive. The idea is to have a common decision for the Just Transition Work Program, and that progress is not delayed. And this substantive decision about the social core that the minister has highlighted is communicated, and that together with cooperation and strengthening of capacities, especially in the Global South, these elements are integrated. The EU has proposed developing an action plan, and this means building capacities, further training, creating jobs, and all those areas that Minister Schneider mentioned. All of this is to be pulled in a specific action plan with offers and options for cooperation. Regarding climate financing, the clear idea in the coalition agreement is that Germany stands committed to its commitments. About 2.5 weeks ago, an open letter was written, a letter by donors, Germany, the UK, and this letter formulates clear recognition of the goal formulated in Baku last year. And it also contained statements on the progress by countries to move towards the climate finance goal for 2035. And here Germany and the UK were key in formulating this process. And it also included a new definition of the German climate finance goal for 2035. We will work on this, and of course, we will also co-finance partnerships and other international mechanisms. Another question here in front. Hello, good morning, Sandra Weiss. Question that ties into what has been said about climate finance. The global solidarity levies, for example, the Bahamas and also the French president are part of this alliance. And the idea is to avoid very harmful practices that are not taxed at the moment, and they must be taxed. So the argument goes. Is Germany going to join this alliance, to join this initiative? Germany can only do so once there is a clear, coordinated position within the government, but there is no such position as yet. However, we are observing this task force. Another question from the audience? Thank you. I don't know if this question is very fitting, but I would like to inquire about the general state of negotiations. What are the prospects for substantive outcomes and regarding unilateral trade measures? Under what circumstances would the EU accept wording on CBAM in any outcome document? Thank you. Regarding the state of negotiations at the start of the second week, well, we had a brilliant first week, and we can see a very committed, constructive, and ambitious presidency, with a president who is not only active in the Leaders' Summit, but also he also showed his commitment on Monday and throughout the conference. He has proposed a roadmap on the phase out of fossil fuels and at the same time a roadmap for an end to deforestation. These are core concerns of Brazil, and if we really close the gaps towards the NDCs and implementation, that will be the difference between 2.8 or 2.6 degrees, depending on the level you look at, towards 1.5 degrees, which we really want to achieve. So this is the level of ambition put forward by Brazil. And this commitment by the presidency, and Carsten Schneider said this at the very beginning, we support this commitment. I don't believe that we will achieve any outcome before Friday. I do believe that those groups of countries that are reluctant to agree to phase out of fossil fuels because of their own interests, they will try to oppose clear outcomes. And on the whole, however, we can say that we trust the Brazilian presidency fully, and there's a clear will and a clear commitment to multilateralism to move forward together. And on Saturday, the week was finished with a lot of progress in the different texts, the different processes. And of course, there are still conflicts. There are still contentious matters. For example, CBAM, you talked about CBAM, unilateral measures or trade measures. There are some of there are a number of such measures. We are open to discussions, and there are also many support measures for countries. So we want to talk to those countries. We want to provide our support to avoid negative impacts for low-income countries. The JETPs, for example, are a tool. And we are open to, and we want to make a commitment, but unilateral language on CBAM is not acceptable. We can only accept questions from journalists at this press conference, but you may ask questions bilaterally after the conference. Are there any questions from the audience? Thank you for your interest, and see you next time.
Global Multidão, realizing just transitions. Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Billy.